All right, I've hit the go live button. We must be live. Welcome. It's Deep Shot Garry. It is almost a Saturday. Oh, I wish it was Saturday in the fall, right? But it's Tuesday at 7 p.m. That means we're here to talk on CFB Only. Thanks for being here again, and welcome to another episode 17. Godly, can't believe it. And again, I've only not done 2 weeks of this whole series since the Tuesday after the Super Bowl. So it's been 19 weeks since the Super Bowl, if I'm doing my math correctly, or this is the 19th week. Heads up, won't have an episode next week. I'll be on vacation, and I'll probably be vacationing on next Tuesday night. But so 17 out of 20 weeks, I'll take it. But we've got a packed show tonight. We're going to talk Brendan Sorsby news. I mean, this guy won't stop being in the news, but I think we're finally done hearing from him for a while. I've got my top offenses for the 2026 season, and then I've got the spreads for week 0 came out. At least maybe they've been out. I don't know, but I saw that they were out, so I wanted to kind of talk about those as well. So we're going to talk about all of that tonight. Before we do, just want to ask that you guys go ahead and follow Deep Shot Sports on Instagram and TikTok. I have pretty much, just been asking this every week, and I've, feel like I've gotten to a good spot. We're above 6,500. We're trying to get to 7,000. So I think, a good goal is try to maybe be maybe above 8,000 by football season. I think that's obtainable. So if you guys could help me get there, go ahead and hit the follow button on Instagram and TikTok. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you're already doing that. But we're going to have a great time, so go ahead and hit that follow button. You can stay up to date with this show, everything Deep Shot Sports going on. Obviously, it'll be a couple months away before that podcast is back. And, yeah, so thanks for everything that you do. And let's get into the show. All right, first things first, Brendan Sorsby. We haven't talked about him enough, right? He is heading to the NFL supplemental draft. After all of that, after everything he put us through as college football fans, Texas Tech and Brendan Sorsby announced last night. I think this was maybe around 8-ish. I don't know when. But they said, all right, Brendan Sorsby, he is no longer going to be a part of the football team here at Texas Tech. And this comes after, I know last week I feel like I did like a pretty long segment on the whole situation that did happen. I feel like everyone did a long segment on it, right? He pretty much was ruled that he was going to be able to play college football even though he gambled on his own team. And we all know that story, right? And then pretty much the NCAA and the college football world within itself was made a joke out of, right? Just a week ago. And now we've turned it all around, right? Now we're back. Because Brendan Sorsby said, I just think it's not worth it. Or more reasonably, Texas Tech started getting sued by other Big 12 schools. They started having the Big 12 literally said, we are going to try to punish you ourselves. If the NCAA or if the courts are going to say you're going to be fined, well, we're going to try to make sure you can't maybe compete for the Big 12 championship. There was those things happening. Other teams were saying we're not going to schedule them. We know all of that. So I think Texas Tech, which I'm not sure, I'm not in the weeds like that, but somebody had to have let them know that if they were to get the ruling they wanted, which they did, that something like that could happen. Like, I don't know, was Texas Tech not aware that if they got that ruling, that it could go bad for them other than just being morally wrong about letting a player play, like everyone else was going to hate you? I don't know. Were they prepared for that? It seems like they weren't. So after a week goes by, Texas Tech put out that weird 22-minute video the other day from all their administrators talking about where they stand and how they stand behind Sorsby. I don't know. After everything that happens, pretty much, so he's leaving. And he's going to the NFL supplemental draft, which, if you don't know what that is, I learned a little bit about it today. Pretty much, they haven't done it since 2019. There's been a couple guys, I think like Josh Gordon was a supplemental draft guy. But basically, it's like a bid system for picks in next year's draft. So if Brendan Sorsby comes out and let's say the New York Jets want to make a bid on Brendan Sorsby, then they can either bid their first round pick. Now, I don't know if people do that, but if they do that, they have to give up their first round pick for next year. So I think It goes around. Maybe they call. I don't know if it's like a live Zoom call or whatever, but basically somebody gets on there and says, hey, do you guys want a number 1 draft? Does anybody want to use their first-round pick for Sorsby? Does anyone want to bid on that? And they say no. Okay, does anybody want to do our second-round pick? No. Okay, does anybody want to do third-round pick? So we'll see what happens there. I've said this for a while. I never thought that Brendan Sorsby hyped the fact that he was paid $5 million. Like, I never really understood that. I didn't understand why he was the number 1 quarterback coming out. I watched him. Now, I'm not going to say I was glued on Cincinnati last year, but I watched him play against Nebraska in week 1. He could not throw the ball. And then I watched him play against Utah late in the season, and again, he could not throw the ball. Like, there was major problems. Like I'm talking like 45% completion percentage type gains, 40%. Like, I know maybe he was outmanned in terms of his receivers and the teams he was playing. They were probably better than him. It didn't look right. It looked like he had to run his way around to being an effective quarterback, and that just doesn't seem like the answer. So that's a whole nother discussion. But after all of that, which I said yesterday on Instagram, I just felt like it was a waste of everyone's time. I mean, a waste of this. Like, instead of him staying in the rehab and figuring this thing out, they tried to pretty much say, no, let's get you to play still. Okay, you went through all these legal processes, so you wasted all of that time, all that money, whoever, the lawyer's time or whatever. You sure as hell wasted the college football community's time. I guess maybe you could say you didn't because you proved that the NCAA is now in shambles, but there was a lot of time wasted on this, talking about all of this, and now all you did was pretty much crumble up the college football world and just say, yeah, you hated us, but it's okay, we did the right thing anyway. Now to look like you're the good guy, I don't get it. Like, honestly, it would have made sense if they just went through with it, but there's something going on there. And I don't know if it's Brendan Sorsby or if Texas Tech is scared that, the Big 12 is going to take some repercussions. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that could have happened. But somebody got scared enough to say, all right, you know what? We just can't do this anymore. Brendan, you got to leave. We're not going to be able to move forward with this. And then Cody Campbell, who's the big booster out there at Texas Tech, said, yeah, we're still going to give him $5 million. Talk about consequences not having any actions for this kid. Or did I just botched that so wrong. Talk about actions not having any consequences for this kid. He was going to get to gamble and still get to play. And then they still are going to give him $5 million. I mean, hopefully they come out and say, well, he's got to give half of it to charity or, 95% of it to a gambling charity or something. Instead of, probably what he's going to do is take $4.5 million and throw it down on himself to be drafted in the NFL or something. I mean, this whole situation was just crazy because they defended him so hard for all to just tell him he needs to leave anyway. And I don't know whose pride got in the way. I don't know what's the situation. I didn't dig deep enough to know. But what I do know is that this whole fiasco was a total waste of time, and all it did was make the college football world, look even dumber than already some people think it is. All you did was make everyone sit there and go, wow, man, they just can't get it together over there in college football. And sure enough, all of that just to be like, yeah, I don't know. They said that we might not be able to play in the Big 12 championship if we keep you. So, yeah, we actually would rather you just leave. We think it's better if you leave. So you didn't think that before, though. You didn't think that before. You just saw the consequences of your actions, and then you wanted him to leave. But instead of him taking the consequence. So, I mean, that's how I feel about this whole thing. I'm just glad it's all over, to be honest. We can move on. But still, I agree. I just think it was a total waste of time. And I can't believe we did all of that for nothing. All right. Next thing up, take a sip of water. And now I'm going to talk top offenses in college football in 2026. Now, again, just a list that I'm sure everybody will just be so happy to talk about and agree with. I think when looking through these teams and when looking through the offenses, I caught myself like being in like, man, this is a lot of like just the same like big teams, big brand names. And I just, I couldn't find better offenses. Now I tried to be like, man, let me find like a Conference USA or an American team that's got a sneaky good offense. They don't have the players these big schools have. Transfer portal and NIL era. I don't know what you want me to tell you. So, hand up if you don't like this team, these teams and how they're all big brands. Well, that's where all the best players are. So here we go. Top 10 offenses in 2026. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it already. If you are listening on podcasts, we'll go from 10 to 1. Number 10 on the list, I got LSU. All right, obviously this could work out and end up being way better than top 10 offense. It could be top 5 offense if everything clicks. But you have to think about if everything clicks, right? Sam Leavitt, he's obviously been hurt for a while, ever since they got him. He's getting healthier, missed a lot of practice, so we'll see how that is. But you assume that he'll be ready to go for fall. They're bringing back a couple offensive linemen from LSU last year, but pretty much revamping a lot of stuff. Obviously, Jordan Seaton coming out of Colorado was a big deal. Harlem Berry is supposed to be still the running back out there, running back 1. Caden Durham coming back from LSU, also coming back. So they keep their running back room together. Eugene Wilson coming over from Florida. They've got a couple receiver transfers. They can plug and play. Tradez Green is a tight end, which I didn't know he was a tight end. He's a tight end. Over there at LSU, he's going to be a monster. He already has been a monster for them in the previous past. So putting all of that together is why I keep them down here at 10. But I think this is seriously, I mean, you got Lane Kiffin coaching the squad. You got Charlie Weiss. We saw what happened. You know how they can put an offense together. And they have all the pieces. They put everything they could into this team. It's probably a $45, $50 million roster. I think it's just a matter of watching it click, but I think in talent alone, you have to give it a top 10 ranking. At number 9, I got Indiana. Now, Indiana, if you didn't know, a lot of people talk about what they're missing. They're not bringing back Mendoza, and they're missing some of the receiver from like Omar Cooper and Surratt, and they're missing some defense. But they're bringing back 4 offensive linemen from that team last year. Obviously, they're bringing in Josh Huber. They're bringing Charlie Becker back, who I remember, if you listen to the Deep Shot podcast, I said last year when they had that game against Penn State, Charlie Becker was incredible on that last drive. Omar Cooper gets all the love for that catch, but he in that game had 7 catches, I think, for 100-something yards, and was making a lot of big plays on that last drive. And he had 7 catches going into that game all season. So then something clicked, and he pretty much became a weapon the rest of the season. And now, he's projected to be a first-round pick, at least of right now. They also got a guy named Nick Marsh from Michigan State, who the numbers aren't eye-popping, but he, a lot of people are pretty high on him. He was one of the bigger recruits in the portal. So we'll see what happens there. Running back room, I believe they bring him back a guy that's, forgot to write that name down. I got to be writing names down. But either way, running back room should be all right. It's the number 1 transfer portal class, so we'll see how everything revamps. It's just whether, putting that quarterback with that situation. When you got 4 returning offensive linemen, that's pretty good continuity. At number 8, I got USC. USC bringing back all 5 offensive linemen. I think I've talked about that before. Obviously, Jaden Maiava coming back. Running back, Waymon, dang it, dude, I got to write bigger. Waymon Jordan, I'm just going to assume that's what it is, Waymon Jordan. And then transfer Eli Sanders coming in to play running back as well. So I will say their running back room a little bit thinner from what they had last year. They obviously are losing Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane. Those are going to have to be some big shoes to fill. Tanuke Hines and Corey Smith, I didn't write big enough words here. But either way, those are 2 of the guys that are probably going to have to fill in for them. It's Lincoln Riley offense, so you have to feel that they're going to be accustomed to it. And these are, again, number 1. And Corey Smith is a freshman that's coming in from last year, and they had number 1 recruiting class. So we'll see how it works out for them. I got USC at number 8. At number 7, I got Notre Dame. 4 returning offensive linemen from last year. Obviously, C.J. Carr is coming back. I've talked about Anais Williams, who ran in for like 7 yards a carry last year. They've got guys like Jaden Greathouse coming back, Jordan Faison, those are, or is it Jaden? It's Jaden Greathouse, Jordan Faison. Yep. You should see how small my writing is. That's small. That's on me. Hand up accountability. But either way, those guys have been on the team for a while, and they're bringing in the guys from Ohio State as well, which I wrote those names down. Hold on. Notre Dame. Quincy Porter. Guys like Quincy Porter coming from Ohio State. I'm sorry. But anyway, so they've got some weapons now out there on the offense, but you got to trust just the quarterback, bringing back the offensive linemen, the running backs they're going to have, and they're going to have a lot of times to get juiced up. Number 6, I got the Georgia Bulldogs returning 3 offensive linemen from last year, and I know this team pretty well, so I don't really need to look down at the notes. But Gunnar Stockton, Chauncey Bowens, Nate Fraser, Lawson Lucky, all coming back. You know, the receiver room is going to be something we got to get accustomed to, but you are bringing back London Humphreys, who I think is going to be a pretty established weapon. He's not going to be like the most explosive or make the biggest plays, but I mean, you got to think about guys like Elias Williams are coming back, tight end. He's kind of got that. Darnell Washington, he's not as big as him, but kind of that frame, big guy. Taylon Taylor, Isaiah Kenyon from Georgia Tech. There's going to be some weapons out there that we're really going to like and that you're really going to learn to know the name of. Kobe White could be that Zachariah Branch role, quick, speedy guy, screens and things like that. And Mike Bobo's just going to have to make plays for him. At number 5, I got Oregon. Oregon bringing obviously Dante Moorbrag. The offensive line a little bit thin, only bringing 2 guys back. Running backs are going to be Jordan Davidson and De'Aaron Hill Jr., and then in terms of receiver room, they're going to have the Corian Moore and Jeremiah McClendon. But this is Oregon, and you have to kind of trust what the talent development is. Those guys are not new to the program. Those guys have been there. They obviously don't have their offensive coordinator there anymore. But what they do have is a top program, top talent, all of that good stuff. Number 4, I got Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss, Kejuan Lacey. They bring in guy Jonte Cook. He was hanging out at Texas a couple years ago. Then he went to Syracuse. Caleb Cunningham from freshman. Deuce Alexander. They've got names that we know about. And I think this is really just all dependent on the quarterback. But they have one of the better running backs in the country. And, you know, there was obviously the big accident that happened to Ahmad Hardy, so now they may have the best running back in the country if Ahmad Hardy doesn't play this year. So, Ole Miss, the only thing you have to question is, are they going to be the same without Kiffin and Charlie Weiss? I think they'll still be explosive enough. Number 3, I got Texas. Arch Manning coming back. Obviously, Cam Coleman and Ryan Wingo, those are going to be the 2 big weapons. They're bringing back 3 offensive linemen. They are bringing in 2 transfer running backs, Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers. Hollywood Smothers coming from NC State, Raleek Brown coming from UAB, I believe. So what we'll need to know is Steve Sarkisian is obviously a mastermind offensive coach. So from there, a team that was getting better in the later half of the season last year, it struggled. They're going to have to learn how to get the medium passes to long passes going. It seemed like Arch Manning had way too many screen passes, behind the back passes going on last year. But they have all the weapons to do it. They spent, again, $50+ million to get here. At number 2, I've got Ohio State, 4 returning offensive linemen. This is going to be a big one because they obviously had the best receiver in the country in Jeremiah Smith. They got a freshman phenom, Chris Henry Jr. who's coming in. They got Bo Jackson back there in the backfield. And we know that Ryan Day in the Ohio State offense, the only thing they don't have is Brian Hartline anymore. He's down at South Florida. So is Arthur Smith going to be a problem? He might be a problem. I've said that before. But we'll go from there and find out. At number 1, I've got Miami, 3 returning offensive linemen. Darian Mensah is now coming in. Mark Fletcher Jr. is coming back. Malachi Toney is now a number 1 receiver out there like he was already. There's Sharmar Brown who's going to be splitting he comes over from North Dakota State to be the backup for Mark Fletcher. So They have got weapons all around. They have, again, spent a ton of money, and I think this is really just a development in Darian Mensah and the two guys I listed. I mean, Mark Fletcher and Tony, Malachi Tony could be the running back 1 and wide receiver 1 by the end of the season. So I think Miami potentially has the quarterback 1, running back 1, and wide receiver 1 all on their team. So that's why I've got Miami as the number 1 offense going into 2026. All right. Last thing I want to talk about before we leave out of here is week 0 came out with some spreads, and I don't know how long they've been out. I think maybe I just noticed them last night while looking on my phone. I was on the ESPN app, and I was like, oh, shoot, week 0 spreads and totals, huh? That's something interesting to talk about. So I've got them. I made a post about them earlier today, and so we're going to look at them right here tonight together. All right, first one up. Week 0, and we can go through the week 0 schedule. You'll be going through it right here if you haven't known about it. We got North Carolina at TCU. It's not at TCU. That's so dumb of me. North Carolina's playing TCU in Ireland. The Aer Lingus Classic. We've all been watching that in week 0 for the last couple seasons. North Carolina is a 6.5-point underdog. Over/under at 49.5. Obviously, North Carolina's got a squad that's changing. TCU doesn't have Josh Hoover anymore, but we remember this game last year when North Carolina went up like 7-0, I think, on the first drive, and then it was pretty much all TCU from there. Yeah, that might happen again. That might happen again all the way over in Ireland, so we'll find out. But it's interesting. I mean, in 6.5, is that too high or too little? I'm not exactly sure, but I do find it interesting because I remember last year betting on, I believe it was Kansas State was 3.5 against Iowa State, and I got burned on that. So I'm not making any bets right now, but it could be more than that. It could be a steal. What I'm trying to say is 6.5 could be a steal. All right, the second one I've got, NC State is playing Virginia. This one is in Virginia. It was supposed to be in Brazil, and they changed it up, if you didn't know that. This game was supposed to be in Brazil. They said, no, we're going to play it in Virginia. Too many complications over there. So NC State is a 4.5-point underdog to Virginia. Obviously, Virginia had a huge season last year, went to the ACC Championship, just came up a bit short. Over-under is at 54.5. The cover photo I got right here is C.J. Bailey, NC State quarterback. He's going into his third year starting quarterback. I think could be a sleeper guy. I mean, I really just think if he was somewhere else, people would be talking about him. He's a huge guy. He's like 6'4", 6'5", a little skinny. Needs to be a little bit, thicker, if you know what I mean. But I like him, and I do like NC State's offense because of him. Now, Virginia, obviously coming off the big season last year, they're losing their quarterback, so they're kind of reshuffling the decks a little bit. I'm forgetting who their quarterback. Their quarterback's definitely a known commodity, I believe. Virginia football QB. Let's see, following. Man, dude, this just does me no. Bro Pribula, yeah, that's Bro Pribula from Missouri. That's who I thought it was. Okay, and then the next one we've got here is San Jose State is going to USC. USC is a 35.5-point favorite. That one, that just makes sense, right? You kind of don't expect USC to lose that one or kind of even been close. But it'll be interesting to see Lincoln Riley and them out front against, a team in their state, a team that's not an FCS school. But it is fun that we get to see this offense that's supposed to be high-powered. We'll see what the team totals are, the over-under are. We don't really have that right now. But USC is 35.5-point favorite. Jack State at North Dakota State. North Dakota's first game as a member of the FBS. They are an 8.5-point favorite, opened up at -10. Jack State coming out of the Conference USA, so we'll see how that goes there. And Hawaii playing Stanford. Stanford is a -3.5-point favorite. Last year, you guys remember this game. Hawaii's kicker was the big story of it, and they were able to come out on top. So we'll see what happens in week 0 this season. Stanford gonna get their revenge as 3.5-point favorites. Another game, Sacramento State is playing Eastern Michigan. Sacramento State, this is their first game in the FBS, and right now they are 8.5-point underdogs. So a little bit of switcheroo from North Dakota State and Sacramento State is both their first times in the FBS. I don't know why they joined the FBS. I wouldn't have done that if that was them, but we'll see what happens. So playing MAC schools, or they're Sacramento State playing a MAC school, and North Dakota State playing a Conference USA school. Sorry, it took me a second to think about it. And now, the good one, Florida State is playing New Mexico State in Week 0 at home, and they are 29.5-point favorites. So it was 28.5. Now they're 29.5. So they should. That's crazy. I thought it would be like 14.5, to be honest with you. I don't know. That was kind of a joke. But I might be taking New Mexico State spread there. I don't know if you guys are with me on that or not, but I would venture to take Florida State 28.5. And the final one I got right here is Memphis playing UNLV. UNLV is a 3.5-point favorite. Obviously got Dan Mullen here up on the picture. If you didn't know, he is the coach right now of the UNLV Rebels out there in northern Las Vegas. The best thing also is Memphis is head coach Charlie Huff follows Deep Shot Sports. If you didn't know that. So if you're not following Deep Shot Sports, just know Charlie Huff is, and we're eventually going to get Dan Mullen on it. But for now, all you need to know is UNLV is a 3.5-point favorite in Week 1. All right, that's all I got for you guys tonight. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you follow Deep Shot Sports on Instagram and TikTok. I will be back in 2 weeks. Reminder, we're not going to be here next week because I'm going on vacation. So until then, hopefully no big college football news pops out, but you never know. So if I need to be back for anything, I'll post something. Make sure you guys are following. Stay up to date with anything I've got to say. Thanks for watching.